of people who were lynched down in Montgomery, Alabama. I believe it opened last year. So if you ever want to go visit that to learn more about it, talk to your parents about it, it's down there for you. Okay. Do you guys know about this new memorial down in Montgomery, Alabama?
I don't.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I
And
went.
who said they went? Who said they went?
I did. Westby.
How was it?
It was interesting. It was good.
Okay. Would you recommend to others?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
would say so.
Thanks, man. All right. So Congress refused to do anything about the terrorism in the South. Can I get someone to read about Ida B. Wells for me here?
I will.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ida B. Wells fled the South when a friend was murdered in Memphis. She worked tirelessly to get the federal government to put an end to lynching. To this day, there is still no federal law against lynching.
Now, there's a federal law that's sitting in the Senate. It's the Emmett Till bill. I want to say it's the Emmett Till bill, where it's anti-lynching. It was passed by the House. It's been sitting in the Senate forever. Does everybody got me on that? Forever. I cannot emphasize how long. It does not. And this is where, you know, the idea of like policy comes into play. Like, this bill was passed by the House unanimously, anti-lynching bill. I think most people can agree that we need to make sure that's a federal crime, right? It has been sitting in office since forever, and it's not getting any close to getting passed. In fact, I have not heard them talk about it since it got to the Senate. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm basically going to try to tell you guys right here, just because you hear a law that passes the Congress as far as the House of Representatives does not mean it's actually a law yet. They got to pass both the House and the Senate. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. So the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare, it was passed by both the House and the Senate. So it wasn't just one person that passed it. It had to be done by both chambers of the Congress. And the anti-lynching bill is still sitting up there, and God knows if it ever will pass. I remember teaching this a year ago, and it's talking about how it just got passed and we're still waiting. All right. What was Southern government's response to lynching and racial terrorism? I guess I'm going to read this on me, talk about the Mississippi governor. Read this quote.
I will.
Thank you.
If it is necessary, every Negro in the state will be lynched. It will be done to maintain white supremacy.
So again, if it is necessary, every Negro in the state will be lynched. It will be done to maintain white supremacy. This is how not everybody felt during this time period. This is 1904, but the idea of keeping white supremacy as being a dominant way of thought and also separate but equal. This is how some people felt. You guys can go look him up, James Vardaman. He was the governor of Mississippi back in 1904, and this is what he said. I mean, just giving. I'm not saying nothing about it, but this is what he said. It's how some people felt. My mom is from Mississippi, and Mississippi, if you ever go there, is a little different. I never liked going there that much. It just felt different. But my mom is from there, and she all told me stories of when she was growing up as a kid in the 50s and how things were. But it's very interesting. Mom, thank you for the message, and I'm literally laughing a second ago based on what you said. But thanks for your honesty as well.
Mississippi, isn't the Confederate flag still like the state's flag, right?
Yeah, I want to say most of the southern states it still is. The idea of having a rebel, the South is still very much it's the Confederacy. It is part of their history, but yeah, it's still part of their flag too. I think it was a movement to change it. I'm not sure where that got, how far that got, but I know it is part of their flag. I know South Carolina. I know a lot of southern states. I don't want to say the wrong state by accident, but I know a lot of southern states do have the Confederate flag as part of their state flags. And it's still part of even their constitutions in some ways too. All right. So Theodore Biblo, he was a governor of Mississippi from 1916 1920. Can I get someone to read this quote from him, please? He also was a member of the U.S. Senate until 1947. Keep that in the back of your mind. Can I get someone to read this for me?
I will again.
Thank you.
What's the best way to keep the from voting? You lynch one the night before the election.
This was a common practice. So you don't want them to vote, just lynch one. That way you scare them away. And this was a practice that was going on definitely post Reconstruction. Again, this is the same gentleman who was a U.S. Senator until 1947. Okay, so let's talk about the Great Migration. We talked about lynching already. Just kind of going to do a recap. You had a lot of blacks, about 6 million, that moved to from the rural South into industrial cities. If you notice this map right here, go back. Everybody did not go directly to the north, right? Some also went out to the west, into California, into like Los Angeles, San Francisco. You had a lot of ports being made out here, so you had a lot of jobs out here. A lot into New York. We'll talk about Harlem Renaissance next week. Also into Detroit, Chicago, as far as industries too. And they simply took the rail line. So you go from here, you had a rail line going directly to Detroit. You also got I-95 take you to New York. And then here, you typically go directly to Chicago. So depending on where you are, but typically if you're on this side, either went to New York or Detroit and Chicago. Here, you typically went to either the Chicago, Detroit, or maybe even to the West Coast if you was really feeling froggish. But they're moving to try to get out of what's going on not only, which is poor jobs, but also with the idea of lynchings. And this is why during the 60s and 70s, you had a lot of families who would go back down to the South to visit family because they moved up there for jobs. Has everybody got me on that so far? Okay. Give you guys a lot of background here. All right, so the percentage of Black Americans population living in the American South, you start seeing a decline around what year? What year does it start declining?
1910.
Yeah. Right here between 1910 and 1930, you can say around 1920, that's when you start seeing decline. This is when you had a first Great Migration. This is also because you had the Roaring Twenties here. This is post, World War I, and people are starting now to move farther north. And then you also start seeing a spike around the more recent times where you start seeing more Black Americans moving back into the South. But now you even see that even though you might live in a community that has a lot of Black folk, compared to what it was, it's very, very, very low. Does everybody follow me on that? And you do start seeing you do see its uptick now and more recently since 2010. All right, Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison is a Nobel Peace Prize winner and was one of the greatest American authors. In this short interview, she's going to describe the circumstances that brought her family from the South to the North. So right now, make sure you guys pay attention. Again, getting you guys set up for a DBQ is coming up. All right, y'all? So just listen up.
Where were your parents born?
My mother was born in Greenville, Alabama.
Can you guys hear?
And my father was born in Cartersville, Georgia.
Yeah. Two Southerners.
That's right.
Please share a little about your parents' background, why they left the South, and what life was like for them before they went to Ohio.
Well, their stories of their childhood are, rather painful. My mother left with her mother and all of their siblings. There were 7, 8 of them. And they left Greenville, Alabama at a crisis moment when my grandmother, her mother, said that she couldn't stay there any longer because white boys were circling their farm. And she had a lot of girls. I never quite understood what that meant then. That was the only phrase. And then later, of course, I understood exactly what she meant because her husband, my grandfather, had gone to Birmingham to earn some additional money, which he did by day work, but he also played the violin. And he earned money that way and sent it back. So she was literally a woman alone with all these children, young children. My mother was 6. Some of the girls were older. So she was frightened. So she got on a train and sent a message to her husband that if he wanted to see them again, he would be on such and such a train at such and such a time. And my mother remembers getting on the train, and they couldn't tell anybody. They had to leave in the middle of the night because they were sharecroppers. People could, if you were in debt, they didn't let you go anywhere.
That's right.
And they were not sure that their father was on that train. And the train pulled out of the station, and they were all weeping because he didn't show up. But when they got about 60 miles outside, he showed up. He'd sort of been hiding.
Oh.
You know.
Yes,
for
of
Dad,
course.
he'd been hiding. And there was all this glee. My father's exit was a little bit different. I think I didn't know much about it. I just knew he left when he was around 14 years old. And he went to stay with an older brother who was in California, and then eventually made his way back or toward Ohio. But I learned later, much, much later, after he died, that he had witnessed lynchings of people in that town when he was a teenager. Neighbors, you know,
In his southern town.
in his southern town, that there were businessmen who had just been taken out and whatever. And there were 3 or 4 in the matter of 18 months. So I guess that was like a sign. I mean, you know, he left.
Yes.
He left.
Yes.
So their recollections were, miserable.
Now remember, is that a primary or secondary source, that interview?
Primary.
That would be a primary source. Again, you guys can use all these with your upcoming debate. That's why I want you guys to make sure you guys can still take notes on this, and this is all in CTLS for you too, to go back and review. All right. Warm of Other Sons. Can someone read this piece by Richard Wright? To read this whole slide for us, please. No, but can you go ahead and read this for us?
Me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I was leaving the South to fling myself into the unknown. I was taking a part of the South to transplant in alien soil, to see if it could grow differently, if it could drink of new and cool rains, bend in strange winds, respond to the warmth of other suns, and perhaps to bloom.
All right, so Wright left Mississippi Delta for Chicago in the 1920s. This poem is one of the most famous about the emotions of the Great Migration. And I'm asking you guys as a class, I want to hear at least from 1 or 2 people. What does this poem tell you about the Great Migration, about how people are moving and leaving? Anybody, tell me what you guys, what does this poem tell you about that? What can you feel by hearing what Richard Wright said here?
That he's going to put himself in a different environment to see if he can like change over time and not have the same type of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Searching for a better opportunity.
You think he's scared here?
No.
Okay. Did he have some reservation at least? I'm like, maybe it's just kind of like, hope this works out.
Yeah.
He definitely is. Again, you go into an area where you don't know it's gonna be. You go into an area where you hear it is better, but you hope it is actually better. Keep in mind, we're gonna talk about Chicago race riots coming up pretty soon. He went up to Chicago, and it wasn't necessarily like the best thing in the world. Things were still difficult for him, even up there. Okay, so let's keep going. Any questions so far? And remember, I am setting you guys up for what are you guys gonna be doing either today or some probably happen on Monday because I'm looking at the time. What do y'all be doing Monday? It's on the screen. A group DBQ. All right. So this is your essential question. So make sure you guys write this down. Evaluate the extent that the Great Migration led to better lives for African Americans or Black Americans in northern cities. Again, one more time. Evaluate the extent that the Great Migration led to better lives for African Americans in the northern cities. Or in terms of Richard Wright's poem, which is why I was trying to get you guys to talk about it, evaluate the extent that African Americans were able to bloom in the alien soil of the North. Because again, it ain't like they've been up there before. They heard stories, but not all stories are accurate. So take a second to write this down. We're looking at this from the perspective of Richard Wright's poem, which is why I was really trying to get y'all to talk about it. You want to evaluate the extent that the Great Migration led to better lives for African Americans or Black Americans in northern cities. In a moment, I'm going to be assigning you guys your group members so you know who you'll be working with. And you guys will have the weekend, try to connect, try to talk to each other, and try to get as much you guys can done to work this out. So anybody got any questions on what you guys are going to have to talk about? And I'm going to give you a DBQ in a second. Is there any questions?
I have a question about the film questions that you had us do.
Okay.
Were they due at the beginning of class, or are they due at 11:59?
They were due at the beginning of class today.
Can you still send it in?
They were due at the beginning of class. Now, here's the catch. Everybody that was present yesterday is going to get some credit, more than the 40%, because you were still present and you watched some of the movie. So it's the question if you get 100% or not. Okay? So everybody that was here yesterday is still getting credit. It's just the question of how much credit you get. All right. I'm actually marking that right now as we speak. Okay, so you guys got that. Let me show you guys this one more slide here. So again, now after DBQ, these are things we're going to talk about. Does this look familiar, you guys? Does the Langston Hughes piece here look familiar?
Yeah. Yes.
This is what y'all have. This is what I'm telling you. I always give you guys stuff for a reason. I'm setting y'all up. That homework last night is something you definitely want to do. You might want to do a comparison analysis in your debate coming up, where you can look at that Richard Wright's poem and you look at that Langston Hughes Dreams poem as a comparison. Might be a good idea for you guys to take a screenshot of this or something, because this is be a good connection as far as making an argument. And remember, you get 2 points when you make arguments, or you do compare and contrast, or when you do what did I call it? I'll show you guys a rubric in a second. It's in your DBQ, but this is a good comparison you guys can have. I'm not gonna go no further than that because I'm gonna give it up. But there's a reason why I gave you guys that assignment yesterday talking about Langston Hughes. All right. So one more thing about Langston Hughes. There's another poem you guys got here. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I will be at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say to me, quote, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. Okay? Y'all still with me?
Yeah, I actually heard of this in my American lit class.
Yeah, a lot of Langston Hughes is in American Lit, and there's a lot of cross there. So I would definitely say I would suggest you guys draw from that American Lit, because it'll help you guys out. All right. I am now posting this link. This is also going to be available to you guys in CTLS when you guys go to the digital session. You know, I always put hyperlinks in the actual digital session. So this is your DBQ. A second, let me put this in the chat for you. Everybody have it. All right. So you guys can go to the chat and pull it up if you want to, or you can just go to CTLS pull up, whichever makes you feel comfortable. But the focus here is life in the North after the Great Migration. Okay. So again, what we're talking about, the main essential question here is to evaluate the extent that the Great Migration led to better lives for African Americans in the northern cities. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and fix this now because I want to make sure. Okay. All right, so we got document 1, which is from John Burgess. He was an African American resident of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay. Document 2 is going to then be a graphic that talks about lynchings. Again, you should be pretty good with here. This is coming from the Tuskegee Air Institute, which is a HBCU. Source 3 is then going to be an article in the Call and Post, talk about Cleveland's newspaper in 1928. All right, then we got document 4, which is going to be a memo to Nate Wenningberg talking about, quote, discrimination at the Chrysler Corporation. So now we talk about discrimination that's occurring up in the North at these jobs industries. You have a total of 7. But document 5 will be just a picture of Black and white Americans in line to vote in Harlem, New York in 1932. So see, even like we have today, we still always have these lines of voting. There's nothing really too new. Source 6 or document 6 is going to then be real estate board quotes from 1917 to 1920, talking about where people are trying to buy houses and things, in both comparing to Cincinnati, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. And then lastly, document 7 is going to be Walter F. White, who is an NAACP activist, and he published talking about the Chicago Massacre that happened in 1919. And we're going to dive deeper into that riot that happened in 1919 next week. So what I wanted to give you guys some time to do right now is take about the next 10 to 15 minutes to read through these documents. You don't have any questions, but you're going to make sure you take notes on them. And if you have a question, I'm going to go to each document again. You guys can just tell me a summary of what the document was. And then I can also answer any questions you guys have, because I want to make sure you guys are prepared. Because when we come to class on Monday, we're going right into the debate. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes to read over the documents. Take notes on that way you can start making your arguments. And let me know if you got any questions. So hold out. We'll be almost done. Do not log out yet. Wait till we get done with this portion. I'm going to put the essential question up here on the board for you guys to see it, because that's the key thing you guys want to answer. And you know what? I changed my mind. Based on this online environment, I'm not going to put you guys in groups. Or do you guys want to do it in groups, or you want to do it individually?
Individually.
Individually.
Okay. Okay, y'all doing it solo. As y'all do this, yeah, y'all go ahead and do that. All right, so let's talk about these documents. This is an opportunity just to make sure you guys are clear before you have your debate on Monday. All right. So document 1. What is the summary? What is document 1 talk? What is John Burgess talking about right here? Give me a summary, just a nutshell. Anybody?
I believe he's talking about how Southern African Americans coming to the North would pose a problem for African Americans on the North, because it says that we were afraid that these new people would create a problem and we'd all be the sub-object of the white man's displeasure. So that just gives me the thought that he just believes that it would cause problems for them.
Is that very similar to some of the argument we have about immigrants coming into the United States?
Yeah.
It is. So you have Americans that are being treated as we do most immigrants during this time period. So that's a good analogy. So thank you so much for saying that one. All right, what is document 2? What's the summary about document 2?
It showed where lynching was more popular at. So the southern states, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And y'all should be able to really pull off the lynchings based on the Jim Crow assignment we did earlier in the class, right? All right, what is document 3 talking about? Source 3, what's this all about? And this is all review to you guys to make sure you guys understand these documents, because again, I'm going in on this DBQ. You're not gonna just get points for just saying stuff.
Segregation in Cleveland.
That's
and
it.
How
Keep going.
racial relations have gotten worse as Southern race prejudice.
Correct. So talk about the segregation going on in Cleveland, and you are 100% right here, and how it got worse because of Southerners moving north. My mom, for example, she was from Mississippi, but she was spent a lot of time. She never really gave me the story why, and I got to ask that question. Maybe I'll talk to her today. But she always spent time in Cleveland, Ohio. So she really kind of spoke about how different it was. And she always said it was more segregation in Cleveland than it was even in Mississippi. And she was from the deep south part of Mississippi too. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All right. And I'm recording for you guys to go back and be able to watch this anytime over the weekend to help get you guys prepared. All right. So right now we're on source document 4. So what is going on here in this document? Summaries. Help yourself and help each other out, because if you say the wrong thing now, I can help you. Can't help you on Monday.
What I believe is discrimination in like the workforces. So they only looked at the white applicants and not the black applicant.
Good job, Ms. Pryor. Appreciate that. Good job. Okay. Are these primary or secondary sources mostly, y'all?
Primary.
Yeah, most of these are primary sources. That is correct. All right. Let's go to source 5. What's going on here in this photo? What is this photo telling us?
It's showing us the African American community got more motivated to vote and stop being scared. I think it was after like everything started to settle down, since it was like 1932 and it said 1940, it got better. More people started to like go and vote.
Yeah, so right before World War II, you start seeing a lot more blacks going to vote. But remember, they're here in Harlem, so things, it got a little, after, because of the Harlem Renaissance, things got a little bit better. Remember, you guys learned about the Harlem Renaissance based on your near-pause you guys completed for Langston Hughes, right? But put those grades in soon. All right, so now we got document 6 out of 7. What's going on here in these different areas in the cities? What's going on in the summary here?
It shows how many northern cities try to handle the African American population trying to buy real estate from them. Like the first city, Cincinnati, it tried to block most African Americans from getting property. The second city in Chicago had many stipulations on Black people for buying property, like trying to put them in certain blocks, which actually contributes to the redlining we face today in African American society. And the last city, Pittsburgh, really doesn't care. It's pretty liberal in like who could buy property.
Good job, Sean. Appreciate that, man.
No problem.
Last document will be document 7, source 7, from Wright. What's going on here in this document? Anybody want to speak up on this document? Why was there a massacre in Chicago? All right, so first off, notice that this is coming from the NAACP newspaper. So this will be a black newspaper that's reporting on a crisis in October 1919. I am not going to go too left in depth with this one because I really hope you should, and highly suggest you watch, not watch, but you read this, because this is where we're going to next after we finish this. We're going right into the race riots of 1919. So make sure you guys review this article, but it's really get into just the racial issues that you had going on in the North. And now, in this case here, you have a massacre that's occurred in Chicago based on how the NAACP was writing it, okay? So let me show you guys something first, okay? If you guys go to my website, drtidwell3.com, you guys have a couple links here. You can also go through CTLS as well, but you also can click right here where it says YouTube channel. This is gonna go where I have all my YouTube videos posted for you. So a couple things you want to look for here. Here is, one second. Here is a Jim Crow video that you guys can go back to review. I would probably definitely suggest reviewing that. That way you have some stuff to go off of. But also what I want to show you guys, just as a reminder, is going to be the how you get the points for the Socrates. I think I passed it. Socratic debate. Where did I post that video? That video is also in here. I got to find it. Oh, there it is. Socratic Smackdown right here. So then you have this video here that tells you, remember, how you get the points and everything like that. I would definitely suggest reviewing for your debate on Monday, both the Jim Crow era presentation and also the Socratic Smackdown. Okay, guys? Make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of you guys are pretty silent. So hopefully you are prepared. Let me say this now.